Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas cuts interest rates again by 25 basis points in a move to revive a slowing economy. Japan is closely monitoring developments in the country's flood control corruption probe. And Israel and Hamas sign a long-awaited ceasefire agreement in Gaza. First, let's take a look at how global financial markets performed overnight. U.S. stocks ended lower as investors, with no major economic data or market-moving news, pause ahead of the third quarter earnings season. The recent rally, driven largely by artificial intelligence stocks, is now stirring concerns of an overheated market and a possible correction.
One of the big questions in the marketplace is what could stop this market and business cycle in its tracks. And I'm not a big fan of removing good components to see what's left over, because it's a little bit tautological. Things look worse by definition once you do that. But if you go through the exercise, right now, undoubtedly, business capital expenditures are the main cylinder of the U.S. economy, booming. If you take that away, if that were to stop all of a sudden, you could argue that we would either be close to or in an economic recession.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average lower by 0.5%, the S&P 500 down by 0.3%, and the Nasdaq lower by 0.1%. Over in Europe, markets ended mixed. London's FTSE lower by 0.4%, Germany's DAX flat with an upward bias, and France's CAC 40 lower by 0.2%. Here at home, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas cuts rates again in a bid to revive a slowing economy and steady investor sentiment. The central bank unexpectedly reduced its policy rates by 25 basis points yesterday, its fourth straight cut this year. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says that the decision reflects a weakening economic outlook and eroding investor confidence amid the widening corruption scandal. The move brings the target reverse repurchase rate to 4.75%, the lowest since September of 2022. BSP Governor Ellie Remolona Jr. says that the adjustment considers the softening demand and fragile business sentiment, weighed down by governance concerns in public infrastructure spending. And that decision immediately rippled through the currency market. The peso sank back to the 58 level against the greenback on Thursday, after the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas unexpectedly lowered borrowing costs at its policy meeting. Data from the Bankers Association of the Philippines shows that the local unit weakened by 28 centavos to close at 58.24 against the greenback from 57.95 on Wednesday. RCBC's chief economist, Mike Rickelford, says that the peso is also weighed down by a generally stronger dollar, as the yen continues to slide amid expectations of a more dovish Japanese prime minister. Back to the Bangko Sentral, they're cracking down on dirty money, moving to tighten rules on fund transfers linked to corrupt projects. The SP Governor Ellie Remolona Jr. says that the central bank will issue new guidelines that would let banks refuse or delay large transfers if there are signs of possible corruption. He notes that many banks involved in the flood control disbursements were uncomfortable releasing such large amounts. Remolona adds that the BSP is studying a transfer threshold, whether cash or digital, to flag unusual or disproportionate transactions. He emphasized that a credible resolution of the corruption issue is crucial to restoring business confidence. The Anti-Money Laundering Council earlier warned that some banks or employees may have been complicit in the release of funds linked to the flood control scandal. The AMLC says it can file money laundering cases if banks fail to report suspicious transactions. Economists at Nomura warned that the fallout from the scandal could slow government spending and threaten growth, adding that the BSP may have to cut rates further to support domestic demand. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., however, says that public works projects will continue next year to keep the economy moving despite the controversy. Now, Japan is closely watching the Philippines' flood control corruption scandal, a controversy casting a shadow over billions in foreign-funded projects. A Japanese embassy official says no Japanese-funded infrastructure projects have been linked to the allegations. Japan remains the country's largest official development assistance donor, supporting major projects like the Metro Manila subway. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. earlier revealed that some funds intended as the Philippine government's counterpart for ODA projects were allegedly diverted to budget insertions for 2025. In response, Japan is expressing its support for the Philippines' anti-corruption efforts, reaffirming its commitment to ongoing infrastructure projects. A high-profile correction from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Chairman Francis Lim admits he misspoke about the 1.7 trillion market loss, calling his earlier statement a mistake that sparked confusion. Lim says he deeply regrets any concern his remarks may have caused, adding that he only meant to highlight how corruption can erode investor confidence and shake markets. Special Economic Advisor to the President, Frederick Go, pointed out the error, but did not say what action, if any, would be taken against Lim. Go also stressed that the ongoing flood control investigations have not affected the country's foreign investment pledges. Meanwhile, Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez, warns about $100 billion in American investments could be at risk if the corruption scandal is not resolved soon. Now, a Senate hearing takes a shocking turn after Senator Raffy Tulfo uncovers that body cameras bought by the Philippine Ports Authority cost as much as 879,000 pesos each. During the Department of Transportation's budget hearing on Thursday, Tulfo called the purchase scandalous, citing records showing the PPA spent 168 million pesos for nearly 200 body cameras back in 2020. The following year, the agency bought 164 more units from that same supplier, this time at an even higher price, nearly 1 million per piece. PPA General Manager J. Santiago defended the purchase, saying the cost included an integrated system compatible with the agency's CCTV network. Transportation Acting Secretary Giovanni Lopez said he will review those transactions. Now, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas cuts policy rates again, down 25 basis points to 4.75% in its fourth straight reduction this year. The move catches markets off guard, even as inflation stays below the central bank's 2 to 4% target range. The BSP says business confidence has weakened, partly over governance concerns in public infrastructure spending. Price pressures are easing, but so is economic momentum. Now, joining us now to get the pulse of the business community is the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry Chairman George Barcelon. Good morning, Mr. Barcelon, and thank you for being here with us.
Good morning, Maiki. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, sir. We hear a lot of, issues about pervasive corruption in the country. What's the pulse of the PCCI when you hear things like this?
Well, generally speaking, of course, we're concerned because this really put us in a bad light internationally. And really the amount that's being talked about, of course, these are being investigated, is so big that sometimes it's unbelievable. On the flip side, if those money were to be put to good use, that could have helped our country in many ways: infrastructure, education, so on and so forth. So we're concerned, and we hope that as following what I heard earlier from Ambassador Babe Romualdez, that there must be a finality to this. When I say finality, it means that the people who are identified must be prosecuted, and whatever the results, whether they would be punished, and also the restitution of the money that they unlawfully gain.
Okay, stories like the one earlier, body cameras possibly acquired for between 879,000 pesos each to 1 million pesos each. They make, when stories like this make headlines, what's the impact? And when we talk about that impact, let's talk about those layers. On the local side, the impact on the local side, and the impact on foreign investors locally and foreign investors overseas, sir.
When you hear things like that, wherein it's exorbitant as far as acquiring needed, I'm not saying that's not needed, but the needed body counts, no? But incredulous the amount, you're talking about 900,000 to 1 million. When we know very well, the GoPro, you can probably buy it for 15,000, okay? And following what the PPA authority, Jay Santiago, said about the software, I would think, I'm also in the IT business, I would think that it shouldn't cost this much, no? But I don't know the degree of integration that he's talking about, whether it's nationwide or whatever. But it looks exorbitant in price compared to other electronic gadget that we are aware of in the commercial market.
Okay, that's right. The BSP cited governance concerns in public infrastructure spending as one of the factors weighing on sentiment. How much do you think has this controversy affected sentiment and investor confidence?
Well, it's the talk of the town, okay? It's the topic that people talk about because they follow the investigations in the Senate. And hopefully that the private sector is also hoping that the ICI investigation can be more transparent. Okay? That we can see who are the people that will be invited. As I heard from the chairman of ICI, Justice Andy Reyes, that they will spare no one. No? So that's a good sign. Whoever that's identified that can share insight information to enlighten the public, and so that we can get to the bottom of this. And I take it that he has the backing of President BBM. President BBM has the conviction of not leaving any stone unturned as far as their investigation. So that's the only way to satisfy the public that the government is seriously eradicating this sort of corruption at this grand scale.
Yeah, grand scale, pervasive corruption. There's growing demand for accountability from both the public and and investors. Do you think the government has been doing enough on the accountability front? And do you really think that this administration is going to go all the way to the top as if needed, if the people are found guilty, even if the people found guilty are within the president's closest circles?
Let me tell you, Mikey, in the conversation that I have, with people, with big and small businesses, they expect nothing less. They expect that this issue must be resolved to the satisfaction of the public. And I take it that that will be done.
Okay, sir, last question. How much of today's weak investment climate is about perception, and how much of it reflects real policy and governance gaps that need to be fixed?
Well, it has somehow dampened, but I would not think, personally, I feel that, as I said, with the ICI probe and to the bottom, to get the results of this issue, this will blow over, okay? But this will blow over that the public would be satisfied and that gaps are all put in place. When I say about the gaps, you should understand, as you were saying earlier, what the government should do. But it also, we ask ourselves, what the government should have done. Because, the government, you have COA, who's supposed to check on accountability. And we see nowhere in the whole narratives that of their responsibility. So this is something that we on the private sector side is wondering why. Because in our business, we have internal auditor, we have external auditor, and then we get our financials being checked by the BIR every so often. And why, when the government is dealing with the public's money, these are taxpayer money, mind you, no? The amount of money that that we're talking about. So they should even be more careful and put check and balance to make sure that the funds are prudently and properly dispersed. So those are things that are in place. It's not that, but it's not implemented. Okay. Every government deal has what you call liquidated damages. If they don't deliver, they get penalized on a daily penalty. But we don't hear that. I mean, that's why sometimes it's all of these events, no? Somehow, parang the whole system is not synchronized. Okay.
Okay, well, we've got the COA, we've got the Ombudsman, and now we have the ICI. So we're hoping to see some accountability and some traction there. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Mr. Barcelona.
Thank you.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Let's check on how Asian markets are doing this Friday morning. Right now, the Nikkei 225 is in the red, down by 0.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index down by 0.3%. Shanghai's Composite up positively, very up, well entrenched in positive territory, up by 1.32% in early trade. Singapore's Straits Times Index higher by 0.3%. Now, the local market pulled back on Thursday as investors took profits just hours before the Bangko Sentral sprang a surprise rate cut. The PSE index fell 0.7% to close at 60.57, snapping out of a two-day winning streak. Value turnover reached 6.5 billion pesos. After the market closed, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas cut policy rates by another 25 basis points to 4.75%, defying expectations that it would hold. The central bank said that the move reflects weakening growth momentum and governance concerns impacting business confidence, particularly in infrastructure spending. Inflation has now stayed below 2% for 7 straight months, averaging 1.7% from January to September. The BSP notes that possible pressures from power rate adjustments and rice tariff hikes, but they do say that overall price risks remain limited. The BSP's latest cut signals a turn downward growth support, but markets will be watching today how investors react to the policy shift and whether sentiment picks up without stirring inflation. Taking a look at the PSE index right now, as of 10:20, the main gauge is in the red, not down by much though, down by 0.1% to 60.51. The broader all shares index in the red, down by 0.2% to 3660. Taking a look at the sub-indices, the financials and the services counters are limiting the decline in the main gauge. Total volume traded is at 499 million shares, valued at 1.24 billion pesos. Market breadth is bearish. We've got 69 decliners, 44 advancers, and 51 stocks unchanged. Taking a look at the currencies, the peso opened at 58.40 against the greenback, down from its previous close of 58.24. DPW Secretary Vince Dizon orders the immediate suspension of all reblocking works and repairs on undamaged roads. Joash Malimban joins us on the line with the details. Joash, go ahead.
Maiki, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon has announced earlier that he has ordered the immediate suspension of all reblocking works and repairs on undamaged roads. This comes amid reports of road repairs being carried out on roads that appear to be in good condition. According to Dizon, such projects have allegedly been a source of corruption in public works for a long time. He said that the department is now conducting investigations into these projects. The secretary, however, clarified that exceptions will be made for repairs involving genuinely damaged roads, drainage fixes, and other essential maintenance operations. During a press conference earlier, Dizon said that a suspension order is part of the ongoing reforms aimed at eliminating potential sources of corruption within the department. Mikey, back to you.
Okay, that's horrible, Josh. So they're aggravating traffic for no reason, just to line their own pockets. How deep and widespread are these projects? Are they limited to Metro Manila, or does this go to the provinces as well, Josh?
When we asked about that Dizon earlier, he said that they're still looking on the exact number or figures of projects regarding this in nationwide. But as of now, they're still investigating whether these projects are being implemented on a much wider level, na bukod lang doon sa mga roads or mga kalsada na ginagawa. Dahil nga marami raw sources of corruption in the country, especially sa public works. And ngayon titignan nila pati sa mga farm-to-market roads, pati mga kalsada na related din sa DPWH projects. Mikey.
Okay, maraming salamat, Josh Malimban. Ayala Land gets the green light to raise up to 15 billion pesos through the issuance of sustainability-linked bonds. The Securities and Exchange Commission has approved the offering of 10 billion pesos in ASEAN sustainability-linked bonds with an oversubscription option of 5 billion pesos. The offer includes 6.07% Series C bonds and due 2030 and 6.32% Series D bonds due 2035. This is the fourth tranche under Ayala Land's 50 billion debt program approved in 2023. The offer period runs from October 9th through to the 15th, with listing set for October 23rd. Now, Distilleria Limtuaco is expanding its footprint overseas as export sales continue to grow this year. Company President Olivia Limpeao says sales and operations have fully recovered, with several markets now exceeding pre-pandemic levels. She adds that the company is strengthening its presence in the Middle East by introducing halal certified products like Maria Clara Punch to tap the non-alcoholic segment. Distilleria Limtuaco has also earned global recognition, winning multiple honors at the World Drinks Awards 2025 in London. Elsewhere in the world, Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas sign a ceasefire agreement, marking the first major break in 2 years of fighting in Gaza and a potential turning point for regional stability in the Middle East. The deal is the first phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's initiative to end the war. Under the agreement, fighting will stop, Israel will partially withdraw from Gaza, and Hamas will release all remaining hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on Thursday ahead of a government meeting in Jerusalem that approved the ceasefire resolution. Now, Hungarian writer Laszlo Krasznahorkai wins the 2025 Nobel Prize in Literature, honored for his compelling and visionary writings that reaffirm the power of art amid global uncertainty and fear. His win is seen as a reminder that literature still shapes how the world makes sense of turbulent times. The Swedish Academy praises him as a great epic writer in the Central European tradition of Kafka and Thomas Bernhard, known for his long absurdism, long sentences, and grotesque detail. His novels range from rural Hungary to Germany and East Asia, inspired by his travels to China and Japan. Krasznahorkai becomes the second Hungarian to win the prize after Imre Kertész in 2002. Now, a powerful earthquake struck the waters off Davao Oriental around 9:43 this morning. Philvox said that the magnitude 7.6 quake hit some 62 kilometers southeast of Manay town at a depth of 10 kilometers. The public is being warned of possible damage and aftershocks. Philvox has also issued a tsunami warning for the following provinces: Davao Oriental, Dinagat Islands, Surigao del Norte, Surigao del Sur, Eastern Samar, Southern Leyte, and Leyte. The agency said that the first tsunami waves may arrive between 9:43 a.m. and 11:43 a.m., and that the waves may continue for hours. Wave heights of more than 1 meter above the normal tides are expected. PhilVox advised residents living in the coastal areas of the affected provinces to immediately evacuate to higher grounds or to move further inland. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.